All right. So the theme this year overall for Museum Week is Togetherness. And we did change the hashtags. If you were following us for a while, you might have seen there was different ones originally to start, but these ones are gathered more around what's happening currently in the world, especially with COVID-19. So we're going to go through these 7 hashtags. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. On yesterday's webinar, we had people asking general questions to very specific questions, such as, I'm a science museum. How do I show this hashtag? And that is something we will do today as well. So if you need ideas or you have questions, this is the place to ask them. Because if you have the question, chances are someone else has it as well. All right, so let's get started. Our first hashtag that we're kicking off Museum Week with is heroes. And that is going to be a day devoted just to all the people that are performing essential jobs right now to help fight against COVID-19. So this is a good day to also explore the idea of hero in art and culture. So this could look so many different ways. You could put something about doctors or nurses or even grocery workers or food deliverers. Like whatever a hero looks like for you in your institution is absolutely okay. You could share a picture or a painting that you might have of someone who is a hero or a role that is a hero. Yesterday, someone asked, can we talk about the concept of hero and like tear that apart a little bit, deconstruct that? Absolutely. And that just really gets to the heart of this. We want you guys to be creative. Every year, I think I know everything I'll see from a hashtag, and I'll see something that takes it in a really creative spin. And that's encouraged. You need to make these work for you. So if you have a lot of heroes in your collection, wonderful. If you're thinking, I don't have a lot of heroes, that's really complicated, look around you. Look at maybe the heroes could be people that are working still at your museum. Maybe you're the hero. Maybe your security person's the hero. Whatever, maybe your preparator is a hero because they set up exhibits or, whatever works for you, that's what you should do for heroes. And so with that, everything you send out that day, you'll want to use the hashtag Heroes Museum Week, so Heroes MW, and that way you can join the conversation. Is there any questions around the idea of the first day, heroes? Any questions, comments, concerns?
If I may add something?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Ben.
Also a day devoted to, can you hear me?
Yes.
My connection is low. I will write my comment in the chat. It's better.
Okay.
Okay? My
Sounds
connection
good,
is
Ben.
bad today. Sorry.
No worries.
Continue.
Any other questions people want to throw in the chat that they have about heroes? If you think of it later, we'll come back and answer all the questions as well. So feel free to throw those in there at any time. But yeah, be creative, do what works for you in your institution. There is no one size fits all. On top of the Heroes Museum Week hashtag, there's also accompanying hashtags. So hashtag unsung heroes or hashtag heroes don't wear capes. Both of those are okay as well. Just make sure that you also include the Heroes Museum Week. So those other ones could be cool. Later on, we'll see one that says like hashtag hope. That would be great because if someone else is tweeting about hope, they could see your social media that also has the hashtag hope, where they might not be, unless they're involved in Museum Week, they might not be tweeting, hashtag Heroes MW. So that's another way to kind of broaden your reach, but make sure you always put that hashtag of the day in there so you can participate in the conversation that is Museum Week and what's happening. The next one we have is Culture in Quarantine. This is a good way to get your audiences to recreate or connect with stuff that you have at your museum. This was inspired by the Getty Museum, where they did Art in Quarantine, I think it was called. And so this would be great. Like in this example, as you see for the picture, they have a piece of art and then they ask people to recreate that. And that's a really good way to connect with people. A lot of people are looking for stuff to do or something kind of fun to take them out of the day for a second and just do something else. This could be a great opportunity for your museum. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, this sounds wonderful, but my museum, let's see real quick what Ben said about heroes. It is an opportunity to pay tribute to all the heroes of COVID-19, health workers and others. It's also an opportunity to explore the theme of hero in painting, sculpture, and books. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Ben. So for culture in quarantine, if you're sitting there thinking, you know, I don't have a museum where I put out a request and people just flock in with, you know, meeting my every demand. Like if that's not your, you know, some museums have that. They can put something out and people just respond. And that's phenomenal. If you're not one of those people, like that's totally okay. What you can do is you can try to put out a request if you want to your audience, but have your own responses ready to go. So if you, one museum was talking about how they have a lot of journals. So maybe their request could be, show us your journal. You know, like what do you write in every day? Or, you know, what do you keep to keep track of things? And if no one responds to something like that, you could ask your own staff or yourself and show, you know, like an hour or something later, you can show, this is my journal. You know, this is the social media manager's journal or whatever your title is, or this is our curator's journal. So feel free, if you don't have an audience that's going to respond back to you, have your own stuff ready so you can lift that up as well. Any questions about culture and quarantine? All right, we'll move on, and if any pop up, we'll come back to it. So the next one is Together. Museum Week, that's the flagship theme of this year. It's an idea to being collectively, you know, our connectivity and our community. And this is a good time to, again, you can depict art that is together. When we change the slide, you'll see a nice picture of like people being together in a sculpture. There it is. Yep. So you can see people being together in a sculpture. That's a great idea for Together. If you have something like that, or you can share how you've been together with your community. You can share, like maybe online, you've already had an artist come speak or something, and that's togetherness. Maybe you can share how your staff is sticking together. Maybe you can share a picture that was of everyone together at your latest exhibit opening or exhibition opening. Whatever together means to you, but it's the idea of coming together and being together even in this moment. So even being together at home. So again, be creative with this. Think of ways to highlight the fact that you still have a community. You're still there for your community. And that's a good time to emphasize this. It's also a moment to explore representations of togetherness in books and culture, in collections, etc. Yeah, absolutely. So any kind of togetherness, anything that makes it feel like a community, this is a good time for that. Questions, comments, concerns? All right. Culture in quarantine is really hard because we don't have paintings or journals in our collection. Much of what we have is contemporary metalwork and a few historic pieces, gates, knives, padlocks, etc. I'm not quite sure how to make people draw a connection between those objects and things in their daily lives. Great question. So an idea for that could be, you could do something like draw your own sculpture, like looks like contemporary metalwork, maybe like have them draw something that they would love to turn into a sculpture. Maybe you could have them find 5 things of metal in their home and tell like a story about it, or ask them if they have, you know, something made of metal that's their favorite object. So kind of, because you're a metal museum, Think about that. If you have like a lock, maybe ask people like, what's the story behind your favorite lock? Have them draw something. Maybe you have a really cool looking piece that you have a picture of, or like something really abstract, metal work. Having them try to draw that could actually be pretty fun. Especially if you have, and if you do it with people on staff too, if they're not like the best drawers, those are sometimes kind of the best, because it just doesn't make sense. Let's see, we did a challenge a couple weeks ago, which was basically making, it's out of cardboard crickets. We didn't have any response, but a drawing exercise may be more approachable. Yeah, it's like one of those things, like you want it to be really fun, and I always would recommend, setting the bar low for folks. They don't want like a 5-hour art project. I know it's being dramatic, but they don't want a long art project. They want something quick. And then the people that are really into it, they'll make it really wow. So yeah, try that. And, some people might participate by scribbling on a sticky note. And if not, just have like at least your own drawing in there. Great questions. Okay, museum moments. And Ben says, culture in quarantine is about creativity at home. You might have things to teach them. Yeah, that too. Absolutely. Okay, so museum moments. This is the ultimate Throwback Thursday. So many people wish that they were able to be at their museum with their visitors. This is a good time to ask your audience what their favorite moments are, if you have an audience that participates in that way. And if you're sitting there going, I don't, this is a great time to share your museum's favorite moments. So either as an institution or maybe each staff member shares their favorite moment. I know when I worked at a museum, my favorite part was I would take these pictures on my phone. We all have phones. I would take pictures on my phone, and there would always be something I really loved that I wanted to share, but it wasn't like super necessary for what we were talking about. Like, go find that favorite picture of your museum on your phone and share that as like, our social media's person's favorite memory of the museum is, and fill in the blank. And this is the ultimate Throwback Thursday. So again, having some of those ready, and then if people respond, retweet that. And it could be a cool way to, see kind of what people are taking pictures of for your institution as well. So you can talk about old events, you can talk about old exhibitions, you can talk about current exhibitions and how it's your current museum moment that people can join from afar. Up to you. Questions, comments, concerns, throw them in the chat. All right, we're going to move on. Climate. That's the one for Friday. And that's a topic that we had pre-COVID, but we feel is still really relevant. It's one of the biggest subjects of our time. We're in the middle of a climate crisis, and we can explore all the different ways that this impacts us. So you can talk about, if you're like a science museum, wonderful. Like, this is super up your alley. If you're an art museum, you can show pictures of climate. If you are a photography museum, you can have people showing, maybe they have pictures of like the effects and devastations of the climate crisis. If you're not any of those things, you can also show pictures of like this, like a painting of like, nature, and talk about climate. You can talk about one of our favorite hashtags in there is view from my window. So if you're like, I don't fit any of those things, you could kind of talk about how the climate, what it's like right now. And museums are not neutral. That's another good one. So yeah, feel free to talk about the climate crisis, how that impacts all of us. That's something that all of us are relating to and all of us are impacted by. So try to connect that with something at your institution. Any questions or comments or concerns about that? All right. And how your museum may be acting in regard to the topic of climate. Absolutely. We're talking about, it disappeared on me. There we go. We're talking about being green work. Yeah, that'd be great. especially, you know, if your museum is doing like green initiatives. I know like some of the museums I worked with, they have become like solar powered, or like they've reduced their emissions, or like their lighting is charged by, you know, renewable energy. All of that is really good. And about being green, if I'm taking that to mean as an institution, or even like about people. So you could, if your museum is something around how they could be green in their own lives, that'd be great too. Everyone could always use more tips, right? Or about recycling or good policies to be more sustainable. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you're a museum and you have tips for even maybe your community, you know, maybe people are doing stuff around your community, but not everyone knows about it, you could share that. And yeah, like how you are green, saving energy, using LED lights. Yeah, tips and tricks are, oh, people love that stuff. Like, here's 5 things you can do in quarantine to be more green. Hashtag Climate Museum Week. That would be really, really great. Or if you don't want to give out the advice, here's 5 things we're doing to be green as an institution. And, you know, or 3 or 2 or whatever works for you. So yeah, great questions and great follow-ups there. All right, the next one, and if you have a question about past ones, throw it in there. We'll come back to it. The next one is technology. Technology is a really good way that bonds people together. And right now, so many of us are relying on technology to stay connected. If your museum store is open, you can still promote that too. You know, technology is allowing us to still bring you the great gifts that you always have loved. Like, that's okay too. But you know, technology, this whole thing, and the whole thing is happening online. And so we're all using technology to communicate. So that could be a simple way to talk about technology. Another way that we can talk about technology is the technology that happens at your museum. Maybe your museum has a really cool 3D walkthrough. What a great time to share that. People would love to visit your institution. That could be a great thing to do to talk about technology. Maybe your technology at your museum is really good for restoration work or even art preservation. You could share about that kind of technology and how it connects us to the art and allows us to sustain art for longer times. You could talk about the technology that is used to connect with artists. I've seen a lot of museums and institutions and libraries having guest readers or speakers during this time. And so if you've done one of those, you can throw back to that. You know, we use technology to still bring you more connected with artists. If you have been kind of thinking about someone, this could be a day to do that. You could talk about your digital initiatives to engage your community. You know, just somehow you're showing that technology is bringing us closer together. And however that shows up for you is something you should talk about. And also with all of these hashtags, if you're thinking in your campaigns to promote a special event, yeah, absolutely. If you have something coming up, like, hey, we're going to use technology to talk to this artist, that's a good one as well. And with all of these, and a collection being digitized online, absolutely. And with all of these, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I can't choose between a 3D walkthrough and our digitized collection and how we're connecting with artists, you don't have to choose. You can set up multiples for that. So you can say, we use technology in all different ways. And if it's on Twitter, you could thread that tweet. You could do separate tweets. On Instagram, doing a couple photos, a story about it. All of those, you don't have to just choose one. And yeah, AR and VR devices, show those if you have those. But yeah, don't feel like there's too many good ideas. I have to choose one. The more the merrier. We would love to see all the ways that you're using technology with your institution. We have a 3D printer and scanner in our metal studio. Oh, that's cool. I thought this may be a good time to introduce a project that our shop is currently working on, although it doesn't have a lot to do with togetherness. That's still really okay, because one, that's really cool. 3D printers are something a lot of people are always talking about. It's like always, especially during COVID, you see so many people printing things for like healthcare workers, like those ear guards for the masks. People are creating stuff all the time to try and help. And so I think it's a great time to talk about 3D printing. And you should talk about the work that your museum is doing. Like, yes, this is to promote togetherness, and yes, this is to promote culture, but it's also a really good chance for institutions to promote themselves and connect with your audiences. It's, it is about y'all. So whatever brings people to you and like also uplifts your institution, that's great. So yeah, absolutely talk about that 3D printer. That sounds really cool. Good question. Any other questions, comments, concerns for Saturday's hashtag? All right, moving on to the last hashtag of the week. It's dreams. And dreams is a good way to kind of dream about tomorrow or the future or a better world. So a lot of people right now are kind of hoping and dreaming and, what will the future look like post-COVID? This is a good time to imagine that. And so you can talk about your hopes for the future as an institution. You can talk about plans that you have as an institution. Maybe your institution is saying, once crowds are allowed back out in the world again, we're going to have an event. And that's exciting. And we can't wait and dream to be with you all again. And yes, as always, you can explore the theme of dream or hope through your collection. So maybe there's a picture in your collection that talks about dreams or hopes. Maybe there's one of like a person sleeping or a night sky or a moon or stars or, something dreamlike, clouds. You can always tie it back to that as well. So you can post that and say, this is our favorite painting or piece about dreams. And we dream of, and then finish that sentence and tie it all together is a good way to do that. Yeah. And, just talk about what you want. Maybe your dream is that everyone stays safe. Maybe your dream is that, we all get together and celebrate art or culture again, or books, or, whatever's relevant, or metal, whatever's relevant to your museum or institution. You should absolutely talk about that and show that with your stuff. I mean, you remember when you're doing this, it's not just the text, but it's also the images. Images perform better on social media, so it benefits you to have some sort of image. But if that's prohibitive for you participating, we obviously want you to participate in any way that works for you. But if you have images or videos, that's really good to add those on your social media. Or talk about someone in a painting that had a great dream for their community. Oh yeah, that would be a good way to do it as well. Absolutely. And we had a good question the other day about, does this only happen on Twitter? No, Museum Week happens on so many social media platforms. You should look at, whatever social media platform you're using, you should look for us there. The big ones off the top of my head, and Ben, maybe you can throw in the chat some other ones that we're on: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Weibo, WeChat. I know there's some other ones I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but we're participating on all of those. And so, post where that best works for you. If it works for you everywhere, amazing. If you do one post over here and like 20 tweets over there, phenomenal. You got to choose what works best for you, and we'll see you wherever you're at, because we're everywhere on social media. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns that people are having? Some general tips and tricks. Oh, perfect. Always mention the hashtag of the day and Museum Week. Yes. And you can add other hashtags to be findable in other threads. You can create Museum Week plus the name of your country to interact with museums of your country. For example, Museum Week Brazil, Museum Week USA, MW Brazil. You can participate on some specific days and leave some others if you are not inspired. You can participate on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Weibo, WeChat, YouTube. Yeah. So, you know, really what works best for you. And, you know, just make sure that when you're including the hashtags, you're doing the hashtag of the day if you want that global reach with all other museums. Another thing that came up the other day is, can we partner with other museums? And absolutely. If you have a museum that you're really buddy-buddy with, you know, absolutely reach out to them, work with them, build off of them. If they post a prompt, respond as your museum. That's really great too. And that could be a really good one for Togetherness, for Together. Museum Week is partnering with another museum, because not only are you getting your material presented by them, you're also helping them by presenting their stuff to your audience as well. So it's a good way to lift each other up and grow your audience, especially if you're in the same town or even the same subject area. Like, I'm just going to keep calling on the Metal Museum because they're here today. If there's another metal museum, that would be so cool to find them and partner up. So think of ways to like kind of continue and reach out on your growth. Also, when you're participating, if you see something, culture in quarantine or a museum moment, and you've been to another person's museum, absolutely participate in that, respond to that. It's really fun, and this is about being together and togetherness. So building that community is absolutely a goal of Museum Week and supporting art and culture, because culture is when we're all together. Any other questions, comments, concerns about Museum Week? How to participate, any of the hashtags? See, thank you very much. Perfectly clear. Oh, so glad to hear that. Wonderful. And if you do have any questions, you can absolutely message us on, I would probably recommend Instagram is probably going to be the easiest place we might see it. I also threw my email in the chat. If you have questions, you're welcome to email me. We can brainstorm something together, work together. If you're really stuck on something, I'd love to help you out there. Yeah, and Ben just put his in as well. Any questions or comments you have, we would love to help you. And I'll be checking the messages in Instagram as well. But we hope you have fun. We hope you have fun and you get to connect with other people, whether that be your audience or other institutions. We're really excited to see you all out there. This was great. Thanks for the tips. Oh, wonderful. And there's the link to the presentation. Great. I'm so glad this was helpful. If you have any other questions, we'll hang around for a minute or two. And otherwise, if not, Ben, do you have anything else to add?
Very interesting. Thank you for all the participants. Thank you, Gloria. I'm sorry for my bad connection here. It's bandwidth is low today. Sorry. So thank you very much to everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, I'm glad that was helpful, Jade. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Tomas.
Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.